everyone. This is Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. Giants football. That's what we all love. That's what we all love to talk about. Me, personally, right now, I'm loving this cup of Black Rifle coffee. All I'm going to say is, man, if you like coffee, and there's no, what is it called? There's no endorsement of this. I'm not getting paid to talk about Black Rifle. I just love the coffee so much. And I laughed because my buddy was like, well, I had this good coffee out of my Keurig. Listen, if you're drinking coffee out of a Keurig, you're not drinking coffee. You're basically just drinking water. So get some Black Rifle. Let's talk about the New York Football Giants. They had the press conferences yesterday with the coordinators. Giants tried to jam in about 45 minutes from Patrick Graham, Jason Garrett, and I can't remember the guy's name, special teams coach. Basically just did a little press conference for about 45 minutes with all three guys. I think the quintessential part of the press conference for me was going to be, of course, Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett right now is he's either going to be the hero or the GOAT for this season. I think he will be the scapegoat if the Giants fall or their offense falls to a point where it's just not there or just not where they want it to be. And it's going to be both Jason Garrett's fault and it's going to be both Daniel Jones's fault. Now, I found it interesting that during the press conference, Jason Garrett kind of wanted to talk about he didn't want to talk about what they were going to do offensively. He wanted to kind of talk about the problems that they went through and identifying those problems and those issues. We have to become more explosive on offense, make big plays, and score more points, and that's the process we're going to go through, Jason Garrett said. And that's 100% true. I mean, it's a point, though, that last year they wanted to focus on cutting down the turnovers. Now, the Giants' offense was sad. Let's just be honest. Only the Jets had a lower red zone scoring efficiency than the Giants. The Giants were at 46.34. Yikes. Now, a lot of that, the ire of the fans have always gone at Jason Garrett because there's a segment of fans that don't want to blame Daniel Jones for anything. He is the hero. He is the Messiah. Guys, sometimes you whiff on quarterbacks, and I've said that a million times. I'm not even going to get into that. And then Jason Garrett says, I think every year you go back and evaluate what you did and how you did it and the ways you could do it better. Sometimes you say, hey, we like how we did this way. Other times he says, hey, we've got to teach that differently or come up with a new thought or a new idea. I think that's just part of the process on how you grow and evolve as an individual coach and as a unit, ultimately as a team. We go through the process really every year, and the process we went through and that's the process we went through in the last year. I think the focus last year, of course, was cutting down the turnovers, as I said a moment ago, because of the fact that that was a killer. And that was a killer in 19. And also we had to worry about the offensive line. And then we lost our biggest weapon in Saquon Barkley in the Chicago game. So there wasn't a lot to work with in regards to, you had Golden Tate, you had Evan Ingram, I know who was the Pro Bowler. There wasn't a lot to work with. Daniel Jones right now has 26 starts on his resume. He does not have any excuses this year. You signed the smooth sounds of Kenny G. You picked up Tony. Hopefully Saquon Barkley's coming back. You got Kyle Rudolph coming in here. You still got a holdover in Darius Slayton. You have Evan Ingram, because I think Evan Ingram is going to be around at least till the mid part of the season. So you don't have excuses anymore. The line, hopefully, is going. Now, this is one of those things, and I've said this before, in Giants past, and GMs in Giants past have sometimes put too much faith in things. Like for years, Jerry Reese put faith in drafting low-level linebackers and hoping and not replacing the linebackers we have. Some people will say that Dave Gettleman's biggest issue was not dumping Eli Manning sooner, putting his faith in that. And I think that's what the Giants are doing right now with the offensive line. There's a lot of young guys that need to gel and a lot of things that we need to figure out offensively that we need to build on in 2021, like Jason Garrett. We certainly have to build on that, on things. He was encouraged by the finish of the 2020 season, and we have to become more explosive on offense, big plays, score more points. That's the process we're going through. And that's fine. And I agree with that 100%. But I want people to understand the focus of this. And in some ways, Jason Garrett was very forthcoming in this interview. Like I said, he didn't really talk about the X's and O's. He just talked about the things that we need to do better. And I think the big thing is, and I get worried that if this is another subpar season offensively, that we're not going to put the blame on both Jason Garrett and Daniel Jones and Joe Judge. We're just going to place the blame on the coordinator. We're going to pull a Jerry Reese, and we're going to fire the coordinators. Then we're going to fire the head coach. And a lot of people will tell you Eli Manning was the issue. I don't think Eli Manning was totally the issue the last 4 or 5 years. I think we wasted the talents of Eli Manning by not putting the pieces around him that he needed to succeed, and which is fine. But a lot of times I think we need to look at the whole picture, not just as Jason Garrett's fault, not just as Daniel Jones' fault, not just as the offensive line's fault. We have to look at the totality of the Giants' offense. We have to look at the offensive line. We have to look at the skill positions. You know, Jason Garrett thought it was a positive that Giants cut down on turnovers. They went from 33 in 2019 to 22 last season. The biggest issue with the team going to last year was obviously the turnovers. Over the last couple of years, we really just are not giving enough the team, really just not giving the team enough of a chance to win. When you're down 31, 32 on turnovers and turnover ratios, and the early part of the year we didn't do that, we did a very good job of it. We continued to trend. It looked like it took us into the latter part of the year as we did a better job of taking care of the football and winning the turnover ratio, which is perfect, what she's talking about. And I think a lot of the offensive philosophy last year was to put Daniel Jones in a position where he was not going to turn the ball over. People will say, Daniel Jones is such a great play-action quarterback. Okay, I want people to stop thinking Madden. I want you to actually think Football 101. Lots of times when you're running play action with a quarterback, it is because you are limiting. It's also, of course, to try to freeze the defense, but it's also eliminating their thinking process. Most of the time when you go to play action, you are going to your first option. Pat Shurmur understood that. Pat Shurmur understood that Daniel Jones in his rookie season was a first read quarterback. Watch the film. I will say that Daniel Jones last year went through his progressions more, but his mind going down to his reaction of his arm is still not fast enough. And I think that could also be attributed to the fact that they needed to have him succeed in 2019, so they kept him as a first-read quarterback. And they did not allow him to mature and maturate into 2020 by allowing him to go through his progressions. He needs to get faster at understanding the play that is in front of him and diagnose it and make the decision quickly. One of the things you could say about Eli Manning, even in the beginning of his career, towards the middle of his career, he had the ability to read the defense and pick the spot where he needed to go. And a lot of times he would go through 2, 3, 4 progressions before he made the throw. That's what Daniel Jones needs to do. Plain and simple. He needs to learn to go through his progressions more. And I think a lot of what the offensive philosophy was last year, it was the fact that the Giants were trying, and I said it a minute ago, the Giants were trying not to put Daniel Jones in a position where he could cause the turnover and cause the team to lose the game. Plain and simple. And a lot of people want to overlook that. A lot of people just want to blame Jason Garrett because it's easier to blame the coordinator than it is to blame the offensive line, the wide receiver, the loss of the running back. And I've said it a million times. Every excuse that you gave Daniel Jones last year has to apply to Jason Garrett. There were times last season that Jason Garrett, in some regards, called almost flawless game plans. It was the execution, not just the Evan Ingram drop. It was the execution of the game plan by the players on the field which caused the issues. I am not saying that Jason Garrett did not have his own problems last season. But I think his overall play calling was part of the Joe Judge philosophy of running the ball, controlling the clock with the defense, and trying to score when we can. And hopefully the defense will keep it, down to 10, 15 points, and we score 17. As Jason Garrett said, we've added a couple new pieces to the offense. I think the biggest things we try to do as coaches is try to evaluate the strengths of all the players and try to feature them in that regard. And that's it. And I love it because then he also went off on the offense. He didn't go off on the offensive line, but he understands how much it hinges on the development of this line. The game starts up front, as we all know. So controlling the line of scrimmage, both in the run game and the passing game, will be critical for us, just like it is for every team around the league. Then you try to put the pieces in place, you put them together, you feature what they do best, and hopefully you can make some plays and score some points. I mean, I think that's a great way to look at it. I think that's a great philosophy to go in on the offense. But it's going to require the execution of your wideouts, your running backs, your line, and your quarterback, not just the offensive coordinator. People forget Jason Garrett has had experience and success as an OC. I don't think he all of a sudden forgot how to be an offensive coordinator. I think he works with what he had. The goal was to stop Daniel Jones from costing us football games and limit his turnovers and win games with defense. And in some ways, that is a great way that you can win in the National Football League. And again, this is Tim on Live Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. And as always, if you could subscribe, if you ring that bell, you think it means, that'd be awesome.